Invincible has a huge animation problem.
There's no proof.
The first season of the show looked like this. Season 2 looked like this.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the... No.
And season 3 made it even worse. Somehow the animation got worse every season, while the show got even more popular. But how is that even possible? How can fan animation look better than a multi-million-dollar show? But because it turns out it's not. In 2023, one of the executive producers, Marge Dean, said that Invincible only had a quarter of the budget of The Boys. That show cost $11 million per episode, which is already super low for a series that big. To put things into perspective, Prime Video spent $50 million on Citadel per episode, and Rings of Power costs almost $60 million per episode. Compared to that, Invincible is running on about $2.7 million for every episode, which might seem like a huge amount, but it's actually peanuts in the series industry, because that money is not just for the animation, it's also for the writers, composers, and voice actors, who by the way take a big chunk out of the budget. Because of that, even if the show had a little more budget to play with, it wouldn't even make a big difference. You probably know Invincible has some very well-known actors for the lead of the show, and they probably get paid really well. But what you didn't know is that Amazon decided to use more popular actors for side characters, and characters that won't really make a huge difference for the show, which definitely took a large sum of the budget. And I'm personally not against them hiring these phenomenal voice actors to play the show. But frankly, it seems like a waste of money, especially when you have a popular show with a demanding fan base and you're running on such a low budget. Make sure you like the video if you agree with what I'm saying, because it supports the channel so much. Getting back to the point, these actors are probably expensive, and we can safely assume that a quarter, possibly more of that $2.7 million is just going to the actors. And so the budget for the whole season goes from $21 million down to almost $16 million, which then goes to composers, directors, writers, storyboard artists, music collabs, and finally, the animators, who by the way have to make about 8 hours of animation in a single year. I want to talk about how unfair that really is. A show like this should have a massive team because the comic was packed with action, but season 2 and 3 only had about 10 animators per episode, which means it's impossible to pull off such a high level of animation like in Arcane with such a small team. But none of this explains why fan-made animation looks better, or why shows like Demon Slayer look infinitely better despite having a budget of $80,000 per episode, only 4% of Invincible's budget. That's actually because of the time limit on the later seasons. The first season was in production for 3 years, which is why it had considerably better visuals and animation than the rest of the seasons, while the other 2 seasons had considerably less time. And compared to Invincible, this video didn't take as much time, but if you're enjoying it so far, subscribe because we have more bangers coming up every single week. But to make matters worse, Prime Video, one of the largest streaming platforms, they release Invincible Season 1 and people eat it up, and it becomes a huge sensation. Moments from the show even become viral memes, and so being the cheapskates they are,
Hello, I like money.
they don't up the budget for season 2 and 3, but instead they lowered the animation standards to be able to release the seasons faster. And sure, Japanese studios pull off great animation with such a low budget, but that's because they overwork the animators and they work them in miserable conditions and low paying wages. But fixing Invincible's animation is pretty straightforward. Prime Video has to up the budget for an already successful show and hire talented animators and compositors to give the show the animation it deserves. Aye, see you later, peace.